And then let me just find a link to it. Perfect. All right, that works. Let me just put this out. Do. Spamming everywhere. All right. Daniel, we'll just get started. Okay, does that sound good? First of all, do you want to tell us what you're showing here?
Okay, this is one of my paintings, and this is from a world that I'm developing for a graphic novel that I've been working on. And in this world, there is a being called Yem that has he's like a balloon that lives over everybody, and he has thousands of heads, and he's friends with everybody on the island. So here's a picture where he's saying there's no gods, there's no magic. I'm a person just like you, a person with thousands of faces. And let's see, the people on the island are these demi-aquatic creatures called the mercats. So they've got skyscrapers, and they've got a fairly advanced economy, but they are not. They don't understand how Yem interacts with the economy.
Okay. Interesting. Sounds like you have some themes coming in, maybe from Bitcoin, huh?
Well, so I started working on this when the core cult was taking over,
Okay.
because I wasn't able to do very much during that time. So I decided to. So I was able to focus on this project quite a bit.
Okay.
Now it's a lot harder for me to work on it because it's easier to actually do stuff with Bitcoin itself. But originally, my idea is that Yem is like Facebook. So he's like he's a suspicious social network, because you don't know how he's using all of the information that he has about everybody.
Interesting.
See, and he's friends with everybody. He has some good qualities too. He's not all bad.
Okay.
So this is one I'm working on, and it's my most complex picture so far. That's why it's not done. But all of the Yem faces are going to be like a fractal. So I'm going to have to fill this in with scenes, right? Because those are all going to be the Yem faces. When he looks at the world from the right perspective, he starts to integrate the information. That's why it's like a fractal.
Yeah, this is cool. This is awesome. When are you gonna have it finished?
Oh,
No
I
pressure.
don't know.
Cool.
Is there any similarities or comparisons to MetaNet?
Oh, right. So yeah, this picture is like looking into MetaNet. But I started painting it before I knew what MetaNet was.
That's interesting,
And,
right?
Here's the last one I'll show you. This one is when one of the mercats learns how to evolve to be like Yem. So he's developed greater interconnectivity in the network.
Very cool. I'm excited to see it. Yeah, it's interesting. And you touched on already a lot of things that we are planning to talk about today, right?
Yeah.
But maybe if we could just step back a minute. So there's a lot of ideas that I know you're interested in. We're interested in that we'll get to, but maybe if anyone that is listening that has no idea who you are, you were pretty much the first person, if not one of the first people, to collect Satoshi's writings together. So, and maybe if you could just I know you've talked about this 8,000 times, so I apologize, but I think it's just important. What happened to you in the Bitcoin network once you started to maybe disagree?
Okay, well, so collecting Satoshi's writings was actually, that was kind of disagreeing at the time, because we thought that there was kind of a movement around trying to forget Satoshi. And so my friends and I, well, I mean, we just knew that we were going to be mining these writings, right? It's not like people say, oh, it's so weird. People used to say, oh, we worship Satoshi. So it was me, it was my friends Pierre Rochard and Michael Goldstein. So we started this site called the Satoshi Nakamoto Institute, and it had our blog, and it had Satoshi's writings that we just scraped off of Bitcoin Talk. So it's very easy to find everything that he said on Bitcoin Talk there. And since then, more of his emails have come out, and we haven't been able to. We haven't been as up to date on those, I guess. But some people thought that Satoshi was too controversial when we were starting the website, and we were like, "Are you kidding me? Like, people are going to." I mean, they're going to want to look very carefully at everything he said, obviously. And I don't think that that's because we worship Satoshi. I think that that's just obvious. Like, of course you would. Like, he laid down ideas that everybody is going to be using a lot, right? So every little thing that he said could turn out to be really important later on.
Well, I think that's the most interesting part, right? Is what do you say to people who say now that Satoshi didn't know everything and he couldn't have known everything, so Bitcoin needs to evolve in a different path than what Satoshi laid out?
Well, I mean, I would agree that Satoshi didn't know everything and that Bitcoin needs to evolve. But I don't think I don't think that anybody has understood Bitcoin better than Satoshi, as far as I can tell. So
imagine that, right? Imagine that. Yeah.
So to me, it seems like the changes that people have tried to make to Bitcoin in the core chain and the ABC chain are kind of they're kind of like nonsense that somebody just made up, like if you were just babbling, that you would come up with SegWit or something.
Right.
Like, to me, that's what they're like. It's just like craziness. And there was it felt like there was no sense that these programmers wouldn't know what the correct rules are. Excuse me. So to me, it was sort of like not evolution. It
Sure.
was central planning. So
And
I think evolution is something that arises from many tiny not tiny experiments that are not dangerous that accrue over time.
right. And so what happened to you? Again, we'll just finish out the history. So then, what happened to you as you maybe had further opposition with some of those pathways like SegWit and things like that?
So I was saying, so I had been reading a lot about religion, and I'd been listening to a lot of stories about religion on YouTube, like people who had left religion and why they started thinking about it, and what made them change their mind. So I am, and so what I thought was that the BTC chain had morphed into a cult, and that means that it has turned into a hub and spokes network, whereas Bitcoin is more naturally a a network that is very interconnected. So there's no definite center point, and effectively the people who are connected to the Bitcoin Core GitHub repository were attempting to maintain this hub and spokes shape, which is not natural for Bitcoin. So they were trying to reject anybody who could transform information differently, and who is connected in a different way, right? And that's why it's a cult, because cults depend on bad ideas surviving, and the only way to keep them around is to get people away who figure out that there's something wrong.
And so they drove you away. How?
Well, so I left the Nakamoto Institute, and so I don't know. See, the thing is, what can they do to drive me away? Because it's not like the Bitcoin community is international, right? And we communicate over the internet. So the only way that you can drive somebody away in that environment is to tell everybody else not to listen, which is just a crazy thing to do. It's a goofy idea that doesn't work, and but that's kind of what the BTC culture had turned into. So it was like nobody was thinking about how their behavior wasn't sustainable. They would just keep on trying, right? So when I first started complaining about the BTC developers, I started getting a lot of trolling on Twitter, but I was pretty much ready for that, and I have been consistently using cult de-indoctrination techniques on my YouTube show and on Twitter. So now they try to ignore me, but because you can't really prevent learning, right? So once people learn to use they learn to interact better in the more interconnected network, then they won't want to be in hub and spokes networks anymore. See, so attempts to prevent learning merely cause you to be routed out of the network eventually.
And actually, you've made it a very you've made it a very important point to emphasize that it's important to have high centrality in the Bitcoin social network, right? Not even just obviously being central in the Bitcoin network itself would be valuable, but how do people how do they gain high centrality in Bitcoin?
Yeah, well, so this book, Complex Social Networks, I forget the author, but the book says that the contents of the book can be about computers or people.
Yeah.
And I think that you need to think of Bitcoin the same way, right? Because the network of people is the reason that Bitcoin is valuable. So the network of computers, that's the platform, but you can't look at a Bitcoin, you can't value Bitcoin other than looking at the network of people.
Well, and that's a good point, right? Because if the peer-to-peer nature of Bitcoin, there's kind of two sides to it, right? There's the side of nodes connecting, but then there's also the side of people transacting with each other, right? So what can a person that uses Bitcoin do to become, as you say, highly central?
So centrality, man, I should have reviewed the book.
Sure.
It effectively it means that there are more paths that go through you between different people. So in an interconnected network, there are many paths between every pair of person.
Right.
And so there are many ways to be central in this network. See, that's why it's hard to find the center. If you've got a hub and spokes network, then it's easy to find the center. But a good network is one where it's hard to find the center. But if there are many paths between every pair of person, then being central means that between many pairs of people, many of them have paths of people that go through you.
So would this be Yem in this case?
Yeah, Yem wants to be he wants to be the center of the network
without everyone knowing where the center is, really, I guess.
Well, so once we get past this part of the story, I think I'm going to have to start drawing a small world network between all of the Yems, because then it's going to be like a big knot. But before this part of the story happens, then we've got more of a hub and spokes network, and it's like someone who's trying to maintain the shape of the network. So let's okay. So
So
okay.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, here we go. Oh, okay. So I'm going to show you something else. Okay, here we go. Okay, we can talk about this picture in a bit. But what I wanted to talk about was this paper.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with this one?
Yes.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay. So I recently learned about this this proof that says where is it?
So while you're finding, I will
Missing.
mention for people listening, this is the paper on Bitcoin and red balloons by some Microsoft researchers, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's in section 3. Oh, here we go. Yeah, theorem 3.1. Suppose that h is greater than or equal to 3. And so h is the maximum number of hops between different people.
Mhm.
So the number of steps that you have to take to reach different nodes in the network. So if the number is higher, that means it's less interconnected. So what it says is there is no Sybil proof reward scheme in which information propagation and no duplication are dominant strategy for all nodes at depth 3 or less. Okay, so what that says is if it takes 3 or more if there are three or more edges between you and the farthest away people from you in the network, then
there's Sybil.
So in information propagation, what that means is you pass on information that you receive, and no duplication means that you don't pretend to be more than one person. So what they're saying is that if the network isn't interconnected enough, then it makes sense for people to be Sybils. And the Sybil means is you're pretending to be more than one person in the network.
Mhm.
And so what this is saying is when the network is more interconnected, then you can potentially have the dominant strategy for all the nodes to be not a Sybil and to pass on information honestly. So when we get more interconnection, then the network becomes more honest. And so the reason so in this paper they're imagining all kinds of different they're imagining different reward schemes for Bitcoin because they say that Bitcoin doesn't understand what's in the paper. But there is a reward for passing on information, and that is greater future interconnectivity.
Mhm.
So what they're trying to say in the paper is that Bitcoin needs to add some kind of extra reward to ensure that people pass on, that the miners pass on all of the transactions that they receive. But Bitcoin as it is satisfies the kind of reward scheme that enables people to pass on information that makes them want to pass on information more passing in future connectivity, right?
Right.
The reason that you don't want to be a Sybil. So the reason that you don't want to be a Sybil, if the network is connected enough, is too many paths lead back to yourself. If the network is highly interconnected and you're trying to be a Sybil, what happens is you might end up passing on too much information back to yourself so that it transmits through the network more slowly. See, you're creating paths that are right and more of them can out network, and you're a Sybil and it's highly interconnected. Your view of the rest of the network is blocked by copies of yourself.
So you talked a little bit about the reward. How does the economic and market forces long-term play out for Bitcoin? Or why Bitcoin, I guess?
Oh, as opposed to what? Like Ethereum?
Yeah, I mean, I guess like I mean, we're all on the Bitcoin SV side, and we believe in large blocks. But how do you, I guess, diffuse the other networks by economic and market forces for this network to evolve into a stronger network that you're talking about, or a highly interconnected network? How do we evolve into that?
Oh, well, that just happens naturally. So,
Because
so okay, let's go back to this picture. So the problem with the core cult is that they think that that a node in their social network, the one around the Bitcoin core repo, they think that that node deserves special attention, even though it's not producing proof of work, right? Because the Bitcoin GitHub don't have a lot of leading zeros on them, right? So if people are, but because everybody is like each of the crypto coins is like an investment in all of the other people, right? Because it's people who have to actually build the network and make it work and create services, right? So the coin is like an investment in the other people. And if you're not consistently paying attention to proof of work, then you are sort of getting effectively a random sample of ideas, or I should say, if you're sort of randomly listening to people without regard to proof of work, then you are there's nothing preventing you from listening to nonsense ideas, because there are lots of people in Bitcoin who are clueless and who have no idea what's going on, and their ideas are crazy, right? But if you consistently pay more attention to who has hash power,
right.
then you are more likely to hear ideas that are fundamentally based on production. Okay, so in this picture, the antlers on this character are they're like the wires that connect him to the Borg hive mind, right? Because and antlers are demonstrated opportunity cost, and that's why they work, because they show evidence of strength, right? So once people learn to consistently pay more attention to more hash power, then they will hear more ideas that are more closely connected to reality. Whereas if they don't, then they're more likely to hear crazy ideas. See? So what happened in core was people were convinced to pay attention to all of the ideas of a group of people who don't have very much hash power.
Right.
So the result was just insanity.
Yeah, that's well put. What would you say? I guess we'll jump into this, right? So you at the Tab conference in Atlanta, right? You pointed out that you said that BCH was a communist coin and BSV was a capitalist coin. And I guess my question to you would be, with everything we're talking about here, where does BSV stand out from BCH, or what are the differences?
Sure. So so it would have made a lot more sense if I had said BTC was the communist coin, because those are the guys who are really, and the people in BTC are just like crazy people.
Mm-hmm.
And so BCH I see as they're kind of like a third world dictator coin. That would have been a little bit better.
Sure. Yeah.
Because like they have like I don't see them as being mind controlled in the same degree that the people in BTC are.
Mm-hmm.
I sort of see them as just kind of not understanding what's really at stake, and just kind of making it about personality, just kind of dumb and juvenile. And like they don't, it's not like their economy is as deeply controlled as in BTC. It's just more like they just don't know what they're doing, and they don't understand that they're doing anything wrong,
Right. Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like BTC is the they are like you kind of said, they're kind of dumb, but they get blinded by the noise almost of the price. And relating to the BCH scenario now, I feel like the BCH scenario got blinded by the personalities, and those are kind of the two discrepancies between the two, right?
Oh, so I read this thing somewhere that said somebody posted on Twitter something about mass hysteria, and when I read about it, I was like, yeah, I think that a lot of the people in Bitcoin exhibit signs of mass hysteria, and I think that really has to do with so what this article said, it said people with mass hysteria may look like they're doing really stupid things for no reason. And I was like, aha, that's it. So I am going to I'm going to try to use the mass hysteria meme a little bit more. And so what I think is funny about mass hysteria is that the word hysteria means influenced by the uterus. So I'm going to say that they're all acting like sissy girls. Because that's what it sounds funny to me that we would still use the word hysteria to say what's going on
right.
with people, because it sounds like some doctor a couple centuries ago was just saying that it was excessively feminine behavior. So they've got cooties. That's the problem.
Right. I wanted to, I might have meant this earlier, but I did want to say I really appreciated you put out a video and it took my favorite movie, one of my favorite movies of all time, 2001: A Space Odyssey. The other movie I hadn't seen, the Transformers movie, I had not seen that, but you gave me a good glimpse as to what that was about. But I think your 2001: A Space Odyssey Bitcoin video was brilliant in regards to how it explained Bitcoin, but also it's very hard to find anybody that actually understood that movie very well. And I thought you did a good job of explaining the movie, what the movie was actually, and in a weird way.
Only a leader in Bitcoin would be smart enough to understand the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey.
It is a tough one. Yeah. Where do you see maybe in that respect, where do you see Bitcoin taking us in man's evolution?
Oh, that's a good question. Let's talk about that, because I think that there is a new strain of human that is emerging as a result of Bitcoin, which I call Homo Bitcoinus. And I think that the previous so Homo Bitcoinus is characterized by the ability to understand Bitcoin and to not have mass hysteria when they encounter Bitcoin, whereas Homo sapien is not able to understand enough subjects to understand why Bitcoin is valuable. So they're afflicted by mass hysteria when they encounter Bitcoin. So
well, can I maybe expand on that, because I want to ask you a question, right? I mean,
is like a herding animal. So this character in the picture, he's a deer, because there's hash power, because that's like antlers, but the behavior the behavior of Homo Bitcoinus is like a herd animal, right? Except not around a location, like a physical location. It's around a shared idea, and the shared idea is Bitcoin. So it's like a mental herd around the idea of Bitcoin. See, so that's why there's a Borg ship, and the antlers are the wires connecting everybody.
do you think?
And the previous version of human, the Homo sapien, they're more like a pack animal, and that's why they like to form hierarchical structures.
Do you think that there is if we are assuming that there is some kind of natural evolution that occurs by understanding Bitcoin, by being inside of Bitcoin, do you think that there is I'll speak for myself probably, but I think this is true for a lot of people. Bitcoin at least has given me a better appreciation of capitalism, for example. Do you think that as part of the this potential touching the obelisk, right? This potential like understanding Bitcoin and evolving. Do you think there's some kind of root? I guess number one for you, were you brought to Bitcoin because of capitalism? Did you get more interested in the ideas of capitalism because of Bitcoin and understanding Bitcoin? But then also, secondly, do you think part of this evolution, this Homo Bitcoinist step in nature, do you think a lot of that is driven by really like a new hyper connectivity of market forces and information value and that kind of stuff? Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, I think so. Joking aside, yeah, I think that failure to be open to new information is the downfall of BTC and just an extremely dangerous thing for Bitcoin as a whole. Because what we've seen is mass numbers of people in Bitcoin just going along with the BTC crowd, and it was all because all because of this network topology game that people have been playing, and the people who went along with BTC don't like they're like they're like if you had a herd animal that had a shepherd, right? Instead of being being out on interest, right? So that's not a good thing for Bitcoin to have.
And I guess I'll reiterate that first question because I'm just curious, like your own idea of not politics, I guess, but maybe just like political theory, right? Capitalism. Like, were you already kind of into that before Bitcoin? Did that appreciation come after Bitcoin? What was that for you?
So sorry, I missed your question. Could you just start the question over again?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, just like I'm just always curious to hear people's experience with like their appreciation of capitalism as like a not political theory, I guess, but economic theory. And when did you get in? When you got into Bitcoin, was it something that you already had an appreciation for? Did you gain a bigger appreciation for it, understanding Bitcoin further?
Well, I guess I would say that I appreciated Atlas Shrugged more than before, but no, I mean, I'd always been a big believer in capitalism, and I was very familiar with Mises and Hayek and Rothbard and the other Austrians, and I mean, I didn't understand. Like, I don't understand what somebody is doing in Bitcoin if they're not a capitalist, because this is supposed to be the new money, right? So, what do you think it's for? Like, what do you, why, how does this this new money advance your goals in some way if
Right.
you are not a capitalist?
It's a very good question. Unless you want to impose your goals on other people, I guess. I'm not sure. Yeah.
Well, it doesn't work for that very well because people just learn they just learn that Bitcoin lets them solve the Byzantine generals problem. Like once so like the people in BTC, they don't really know what the benefit of solving the Byzantine generals problem is, because they don't think that they need big blocks.
Yeah.
But it's really like the difference between needing to be a part of their hub and spokes network and being able to just act independently.
That's a great point. Yeah, that's a great point.
Kind of to go off the political theory question Connor asked, like the problem that a lot of people have with the SV side now is this whole statist theory. And we've discussed, and you mentioned you were actually one of the first people to kind of come out and be like a Bitcoin maximalist per se, and all these other coins don't have any value, but the market somehow mentioned that they do. How do you see the market playing out now with these other coins? Do you see the market saying that they have zero value, or do you see law kind of entering in to the market and driving that price to zero? Like essentially like the idea of a lot of these other tokens being unregulated securities. Like which route do you think we will go?
Well, I don't know. That's a good question, and I certainly don't like. I mean, I think that the market is able to learn on its own, uh, uh, and I think that we will see a process where, assuming that the law doesn't start to crack down on everything, right? I think we would just see a process whereby the coins that have economies that are not built around achieving Bitcoin's real potential, I think we'll just see that whole system kind of shrink. So most of the other coins depend on the exchanges, and that's sort of, the exchanges depend on them, right? So it's kind of like so all of these coins have to be kind of cooperative with one another, because they're all sort of mutually involved in the scam, that you can have more than one money. But as long as the coins are not opposing one another, they're not creating value for themselves. So I think that as we see more coins start to act like they're more cooperative with one another, we'll see all of them shrink together. But I'm certainly, like, I'm an anarcho-capitalist, but I'm certainly not opposed to people being caught for crimes that are clearly fraud, where they have clearly lied about what they're selling, right? So I mean, and we've seen that companies that don't Bitcoin are willing to act against it, right? So that's what happened with Bitmain and with Blockstream. Like, it's hard to know what people are really thinking behind the scenes, right? Anyway, I kind of went off on a tangent there, but I just wish people would sort of understand that everything going on in Bitcoin is kind of like a big strategy game, and a lot of people just aren't really playing it very well. See, and as a result, they're going to lose out eventually, no matter what happens.
So you mentioned like they're cooperating with each other, really. So in a way, they're cooperating with each other, and they have a lack of competition by cooperating with other tokens, and then in return, that essentially drives the utility of all of them lower. Is that kind of
so? Like the money, the value of money is based on
yeah, you're cutting in and out there, Daniel.
the of in Sorry, I shouldn't be using um wireless. I forgot to fix that. But
Oh, we got you back
like
now.
the currency. Sorry, I shouldn't be using wireless. I forgot to. Well, my new computer doesn't connect to the Ethernet yet with it. But like the reason that the money is useful is that it allows economic activity to be compared. So when everybody is sort of trying to get more units of whatever they use as money, what ends up happening is like the better positive feedback loops win out, and over the whole economy, uh, anything that's less profitable gets less investment, right? So there is this uh, this process whereby everybody is kind of brought closer to optimum, right? But if there are lots of coins, then you don't have that. Well, if there are two coins, then you don't have that, because you're not comparing everything anymore. And then there are always avenues for uh, for it's easier for people to avoid optimization if um, they're not all trying to focus on one unit. So are cooperative with one another, you just end up with an economy that can't be productive because there isn't there because the economic activity happening in it is not being compared in a way that everybody agrees on.
So that's actually that's a good point, right? So well, okay, I want to take it back because I just been kind of sitting in thought about it. And I wish I had rewatched that video you made about 2001, because there's so many things in there I want to talk to you about. I should have rewatched it before we talked, but there were things I'm just thinking about here, and maybe to bring it back to this idea of Homo Bitcoinus, right? I like that term. It almost seems that it's just kind of tying to what you're saying here around maximalism versus kind of like being distracted by a non-maximalism viewpoint, and not being able to, in some capacity, cooperate to grow value. I guess it's something that when I talk about it to other people who don't know anything about Bitcoin, it makes me sound insane. But again, I think your video did an amazing job of just subtly getting to the point of like, this is what Bitcoin is and how it works and what it will lead to. And I guess what I wanted to maybe talk about is with Bitcoin, it seems like the further you understand it and the more you start understanding what hyper Bitcoinization looks like, right? This idea of metanet, right? So, because what bothers me the most is actually that we've used a different term to just describe hyper Bitcoinization, which is metanet, which is fine because it sounds like internet and it sounds more palatable to people. But really all metanet is just everything operating under Bitcoin. And really, so what that means is everything operating under a value structure, right? Where everything is valued in some capacity. And I guess what I see in this hyper Bitcoinized world, putting aside governance, putting aside even the hierarchical structures that will probably still evolve. I don't think you ever get rid of hierarchies. It seems like what does happen in the end is inherently valuable things rise to the center and non-valuable things don't. And they maybe stay towards the periphery of the network. Where does that bring us as a society? How do you think it does affect governance, but maybe more importantly, to me, that idea when everything it's the same way how, and I know I'm going a little off here, but like when the internet, I'm sure you had the same, everyone has that experience where they first remember they used the internet and they had that first like, whoa, I'm connected to somebody across the globe, like that feeling, right? You probably had that feeling when you first used a telephone, if you were, older than I was, because telephones around since I've been born. But the internet, I vividly remember the first time I had finally felt like, whoa, I'm connecting with someone across the globe. In the same way, don't you think that we're going to undergo the exact same thing where it's not just, whoa, I'm connecting to somebody, because there's obviously the hyperconnectivity aspect of it, but also, whoa, I'm connected to something inherently very valuable. And where does that bring us, I guess? I know I kind of went all over the place there, but what are your thoughts?
Well, I think that people in Bitcoin the incentive to form a shared consciousness, because value in Bitcoin out few prediction. So the way that the whole system can become more predictable, which is to form, should be possible because people can hash power. So essentially, if you are sort of looking at information cost.
Hey, Daniel, you're cutting in and out.
Cutting out a bit, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
Sorry. I mean, well, this is really disappointing.
Try again. You're good now.
Yeah, you're good now.
What did you hear last? So, but basically, everybody needs to predict the whole. And the way that that becomes possible is by having a theory about what the whole is thinking, like what is the state of the whole. And then this theory now becomes one of the ways that people can compete in the centrality contest. So you can get more interconnectivity in the network by having a better theory about the state of the Bitcoin shared consciousness. And so if you can say things that bring forth consciousness, then so you have to say things that people don't know how to articulate yet. If you can do that, then that's reading the shared consciousness. So there's going to be a competition about who's the better Bitcoin prophet, and people's information that they all agree on will just be based on roughly what they're getting from the nodes with the highest hash power. See, so people are going to roughly agree on what it is.
So here's the question: does the shared consciousness, does that exist already? And this is our way of tapping into it, or does Bitcoin create that?
Yeah, it exists already. You can see it in all of the other coins because everybody behaves together. Okay. But it's really dumb. They're really dumb shared consciousnesses in the other coins. So when I articles in the past, like the hyper Bitcoinization article. So that article was because I thought that people in Bitcoin were really nervous, and I was thinking,
oh, we're losing you again.
So, well, anyway, my articles like hyper Bitcoinization were later used by the core people who took over, and they said we're creating hyper Bitcoinization for you. And these people would they meme even after I would tell them that it's time to stop thinking about hyper Bitcoinization because now you've got problems that you need to fix. See, so that's the Bitcoin shared consciousness. You could measure it by the advancement of the meme through miners. And so eventually, I want people to learn how to think together a lot better, so that the way all of the memes interact in the crowd is going to be a lot more sophisticated than that. And that's what I'm trying to do on my show. So eventually what I want is for all of the memes in Bitcoin to be as complex as the episodes of my show. And then nobody will understand what's happening at all because there'll be just too much information for any process.
I think we lost.
I think he's good. Daniel?
Can't hear him at all now.
No.
Is he coming back?
Daniel?
Man, that was a good point, too.
I know. There you are. Hey. Nope.
Yeah, it's still choppy. Oh, man.
Nope. He fell into a black hole. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's make sure that we remember.
Yep. I can hear you. I can hear you. Hey.
Oh. Okay. Wait. So before I cut out again, let's talk about quantum gravity, because that was something else.
I wanted to touch on that. That was the last thing you mentioned. We haven't talked about that.
Listen, here's something okay. So in string theory, a black hole is a closed string that's crumpled up. So it's a circle with random connections. Right? Closed string, the different ends of it randomly touch one another. Okay? So a black hole is a small world network, because that's how you construct the small world network.
According to string theory. I didn't know that. I actually did not know that.
Yes.
What I'm curious about is how, so that would be interesting, right? Because I've always been curious about Hawking's, information theory with respect to a black hole.
According to string,
Daniel.
I think we lost him.
Well, whatever.
There you are. I hear you now.
Okay. There's the holographic principle.
Right.
Are people even listen to this? All spaces of different dimensions can carry the same information.
Holographic theory. Yep. I don't know if you're cutting out or not, or if you're pausing.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So
Daniel, they're trying to silence you, I think.
You're
very cut out on us. You're okay. Good most of the show, but now I can hear you again. But
someone in the comments said he went to the black hole.
You got lost in the black hole, I think, Daniel. Well,
okay. Well, anyway, thanks a lot for inviting me on your show. Once I figure out how to connect better, I'll be happy to tell you more about quantum gravity. But I think we'll need a better connectivity to achieve that.
All right. Well, I will do some research, because I'd be curious to have that conversation. So thank you for coming on, and thank you for all the videos you've done and everything. You're an interesting guy to listen to for sure. So we appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, cool. You can hear us. All right, good. Have a good one, Daniel.
Okay, see ya.
Thanks everyone for listening.